Welcome to the Morehouse College Human Rights Film Festival. This is year number 7 for us. Really excited about that. My name is Adell Henderson. Very excited about it to be a part of this festival, not just because it's at this amazing institution, but it just gives a lot of cool opportunities, for films that don't normally, have access to, some of the other festivals. And really excited because this time next year we'll be, seeing a film from, our guest for today. We're going to be, just exploring a lot in the pop culture space, the journalism space. We're going to talk about music, television, film, the integrity of journalism, even the whole idea of, AI and, how it's not all bad, right? It's, definitely something that, is our friend in many spaces, but Kim Ford is a adjunct professor here at Morehouse College. When she first got on my radar, I'm thinking like, who's this young lady that's, probably just cutting her teeth in journalism, and, teaching this class and, doing these cool things, appearing on CNN, and she has a TED Talk, she's an author, and I come to realize that, she's a seasoned veteran, who is, very well established. As a matter of fact, give us a quick overview, just to give people an idea of your background, your amazing, class, and, some of the things that you've been currently working on.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm so happy that you're here for the panel today, the fireside chat today. I'm Kim Ford. I'm originally from Grambling, Louisiana, and I'm actually self-taught in media. My degree is in psychology. But once I moved to Atlanta, I knew I wanted to be in Atlanta in entertainment. I knew wherever that was, it was going to happen in Atlanta, and I was going to figure it out. So that's kind of what I did. I figured out what I wanted to talk about. I didn't see a lot of positive things in media, so I created my own media outlet that covered faith, culture, and style. Didn't know anything about media, journalism, any of that. This was back in 2007, before social media, before Squarespace and WordPress, all the things that make it real easy to throw up a website now. I had to build it my own. At that time, you had to pay a web designer thousands of dollars to build your website if you wanted a website. And that wasn't about to happen on something I was just kind of figuring out. So Yahoo Site Builder had something that was user-friendly enough. That's back when Yahoo was popping. So I built my own website. I literally stayed up for 24 hours. I just could not go to sleep until I sat there and figured it out. So I did. I got my content up, and the first major event that I requested credentials to cover was the BET Hip Hop Awards in 2007. As soon as I learned that they were coming to Atlanta, this was the first year that they would be filming in Atlanta, I was like, oh, I have got to be there. I don't know how I figured out how to apply, but I applied for press credentials. I hit send. I was like, well, we'll find out if they let me in. And lo and behold, they said yes. So I just followed the directions on the email. I got there. I saw the red carpet. I saw like 106 in Park filming. This was back when Terrence J. and Roxy was doing 106 in Park. And I was like, wow, I really kind of made it here. I didn't know what the heck, again, I was doing. And I checked in, and once I got to the red carpet, I saw all these major media outlets there, people that really knew what they were doing, and then me, right? So I had my little point and shoot. I just used the best with what I had. And a lot of major outlets, they had their big old, network size cameras and stuff. But I just paid attention. Well, that's something I do really well. I just paid attention to what they were doing and kind of did what worked best for me, right? Because I knew the questions that I wanted to ask, but I didn't know what the etiquette was. I didn't know anything. And so I did. I asked all my questions. I interviewed Bernice King. I interviewed Lecrae. I interviewed all these wonderful things. Even mainstream artists, I interviewed them, but I may ask them something about their faith, their family, or other things that they were working on, right? And so from there, from event to event, other publicists would just share my work because they knew I would show up, I would be professional, I would do great work, and so they just kept inviting me out. And eventually one day I was just started getting phone calls. I was like, I would get a call and say, hey, we have Carmelo Anthony in town. Would you like to interview him? And I was like, yes. And how did you find me? And then I would get another one. I was like, hey, we have Sanaa Lathan in town. Would you like to interview? I was like, how are these people finding me? So I was like, okay, let me get my site together for real, because, you know, the word is kind of getting out. And what I found out was that, you know, Atlanta, there's Atlanta media, most of the publicists has like a media list, right? And so the publicists in LA or New York, if they want to do a major event here, they'll collaborate with the publicist that's here in Atlanta and say, hey, can you share this with your Atlanta list? Or, you know, who do you have in Atlanta? And so they would like share our info, which was great. So the word gets out, we do great work. And so I continue to do that, and as far as, I did that for many years, and as far as CNN goes, I was at an event, once again, I don't mind talking to anybody when there's a goal that I want to meet. If they got the information, I'm going to talk to you, right? And so there was a panel at a women's event that I went to, and one of the producers was on the panel. And she was basically, she was from CNN. She was telling how to pitch your product, basically. And after the panel was over, I said, I don't have a product to pitch, but I'm gonna pitch myself, because eventually I would love to end up on CNN. I tried to tell her, you know, what it is I did. I told her my name. And so she was like, wait, what's your name again? And so I told her, she said, what's your Instagram? And I told her, and she pulled it up. She was like, yeah, I'm already following you. I was like, oh, okay. So I still proceeded to tell her what my goal was. She was like, I got it. You don't got to say anymore, I got it. And so she was basically saying, well, she was saying we already have people at CNN to do these type of things, but if you want to do it, this is how you could approach it 6 months to a year out. The next thing I know, maybe 3 days later, she texts me, she calls me and said, hey, can you be at CNN on Sunday and do a statement? I was like, on reboots, I was like, yes, I will be there, I can do it, you know? But I always figure things out, like I'm gonna figure it out. And so I saw that as, what if I didn't take that opportunity to go up to her and talk and tell her who I was, you know, quickly, to the point, you know, and really wanted her critique. That's all I really wanted, was her eye on what I did. But she was like, no, we want that. And so just from year, just many wonderful things just happened. And this was just all for me, being independent and really want to tell great stories.
That's amazing. How many people are filmmakers? Is everybody pretty much filmmakers? Did anyone actually go to film school or in film school right now, right? So there's a lot to be, you know, said about, you know, what was just shared in terms of, you know, going the traditional route, going the informal route. I mean, there's just, at the end of the day, hard work, consistency, professionalism, and you know, just getting out of bed. You know, huge part of being able to, you know, just push through, get people's attention in terms of, you know, just, you know, getting information out and just letting people know, like, this is who I am and what I'm doing. And I want to add on to that, you know, just, you know, from a standpoint, you know, being that we're at a film festival, you know, we have filmmakers in the room, media, right? You know, just pop culture, you know, the type of things that, you know, that's a, you know, area of expertise, you know, for you. Give us an idea of, you know, what the people want. Because at the end of the day, you know, yeah, we're all inspired. We're like, oh man, I have this great story I want to tell. But at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people try to jump on trends. What have you noticed in terms of just like from the successful projects that are coming out, the ones that are most consistent, you know, when you think it across the board in terms of, you know, just genres, what are some of the patterns that you've noticed in terms of, you know, like breakout projects, even before the copycat stuff goes on? Like, what are your thoughts that that's something that could help, you know, shape and guide, you know, the filmmaker's perspective of like, you know, how they may want to approach packaging, presenting, and even pitching projects?
Well, what I tell my students, I teach a class here at Morehouse called Movies, Music, and Celebrity Journalism. And what I always tell them is authentic is what catches people's attention and what keeps them coming back. I even asked Mara Barbecue over the summer. She did like a little small intimate meet and greet, and I told her, who I was, and obviously I follow Mara's work forever. She does phenomenal work. Girlfriends to the Game to Forever, which is currently on Netflix.
Being Mary Jane?
Being Mary Jane, oh my gosh, like all the amazing things. And so I really wanted to know, what's the secret sauce in all of these, her successes, like what is it she sticks to? And she's like, what can I take back to my students at Morehouse and tell them to perfect? Because clearly you got it right. And she was like, authentic storytelling. Storytelling will never ever go away. Because everybody has a story, right? It may not be the same story. Sometimes you can take bits and pieces of someone else's story that you can identify with or at least empathize with. But authentic storytelling will always win. Think about even back in the 90s when NWA came out. I'm from the South. I had no clue what was going on in South Central.
Mm.
How did I find out it wasn't the news?
Right.
It was the storytelling through the music.
Right.
How did I find out what was going on in New York?
Mm.
From Black and brown communities. It wasn't necessarily the news. It was through storytelling, right? And so it's just proven time and time again, no matter what genre you're in. Even to today, people are getting exonerated, out of jail, justified through storytelling, through movies, which is why I love movies so much, because yes, you're telling a story, but it can also change someone's life if you do it right. Our stories don't have to be heavy, don't have to have a huge message, and I get that. Mm-hmm. Some people just want to go and just go to the movies, kick it, laugh, and we need that too, right? You have to have a balance of it. But from what I've learned,
But even with that, just from a creative standpoint, of course, I'm pretty sure you could have like all these original stories that come to mind, but I think one of the other challenges even, that could be a great exercise as a writer is like, how can you reinvent the wheel in a way to where it's exciting, right? Because you think about the Spider-Man character has been around probably since like the 60s. But for them to have recreated it in a way to where it's just interesting, like those are the type of things that you could, kind of study. And, the way they keep bringing back Batman and Superman, these characters, but finding ways to, to reboot them. Like what are some of those trends? It's kind of weird, like my daughter and I going to the movies this summer, we're looking at the poster, like, man, all of these are remakes. What the heck is going on? But talk about the beauty of being able to stay authentic, but at the same time, just be able to reimagine, something amazing that already exists. And like, what are some of those trends that you've noticed?
Yeah, I would even take it to, for example, Creed is a wonderful example of that. So I was invited to the press junket in LA to go interview, Michael B. Jordan, go to the Rocky Steps in Philly. It was a whole press-like event. They made a whole weekend out of it for us. And just to see how, yes, pretty much everyone has seen Rocky. We know the story, but when I saw Creed 1, that first one, I was like, oh, this is how they didn't remake it, but they took it to the next level. They extended the storyline. So a lot of times we don't need the exact same story that's already a classic as is, right? Mm-hmm. Let's take it to the next level. How can we advance the storytelling, make it better, maybe correlate it to what's relevant to today? So then comes out Creed, and then Creed 2, and then Creed 3, and it's a phenomenon. And at the same time, when you think about the numbers and box office and sales, it brings out the audience that saw the original. Mm-hmm. It's going to bring out the audience that wants to see the new one, the newer generation. So you have Rocky and you have Michael B. Jordan, well, both of those audiences bringing them together. I thought it was genius. So I would say extending it that way is the best way. We don't necessarily, because I know right now there's a whole bunch of Spider-Mans out, right? I can't even keep track of how many Spider-Mans, whether it's the movie or the cartoons.
Right.
You know.
Or the comic books.
Yeah. You know, because my son is 19, and he was like, oh yeah, this Spider-Man, whatever. I'm like, didn't that just come out last year? He was like, no, that was Spider-Man, but something. This time it's Spider-Man, but it's totally different. I was like, okay, I can't keep up.
Right.
But, I mean, the best thing you can do is find a story that's maybe not being told, or you saw what was missing in that story, and fill that hole.
Mm.
And once you see what stories, and do your research, and talk to people, and ask questions, and find out what the next bigger story is, I think you can do that. Ryan Coogler did an amazing job with that on Creed.
Mm. One of the things that you do in your class is you challenge your students to do their homework, do their research, you know, get outside of the moment and understand, like, okay, this is where we are now, but these are the different stages and phases of media and journalism that it took for us to get here. How important do you think that is to get into the origin story about, you know, the craft as you're making your way into any of these industries?
Yeah. So most of my students were born, the youngest, the oldest, maybe 2001 to 2006. So obviously they're all pretty much like the TikTok era, right? So it's absolutely important to me, if I'm teaching movies, music, and celebrity journalism, where did entertainment journalism start? Because it didn't just start, storytelling didn't start at TikTok, right? So that's what they know and love and gravitate to. That's where they consume most of their content. But I'm going to take them back to where it all started. So in my class, I take it all the way back, take it to the 60s. How many of you have heard of Ebony? This is what I'm asking my students. How many of you heard of Jay? So we went through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. All right, how many of you heard of Black Beat? Right? How many of you heard of Vibe, The Source, Double X? What they call it is XXL. I said, well, that's why we're doing this assignment. I had them do a presentation on the different decades of entertainment journalism. And when they did their presentations, at least 4 of them, if they chose something from like the 90s and they chose Double XL, they would say, yeah, I'm gonna focus on XXL. I cut them off immediately. I said, that is pronounced Double XL. You will not leave my class calling it XXL. But they loved it, and so many of them loved Black Beat, Source, Essence, because I want them to see the evolution over time and to see how that compares to the way we consume entertainment now and where can they take it, right? Because you have to know where this came from to even know how can you make it better. You're the future storytellers, but what do you know about the foundation? Because what you don't want to do is disrespect the foundation, thinking you're doing something totally bright and brilliant, because the elders would tell you quickly, no, sit down, that's not how you do that, or that's not where they came from. Or thinking they made up something so wonderful when it's like, actually this was done in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, right? And it was beautifully done, but let's build on that. Not just discredit that it didn't happen. So it was a wonderful exercise. I was happy to see them. First of all, I was happy to even create a lecture talking about Double XL, Source, and that whole time period at all, right? And Black Beat in the 80s, and they were able to see what type of stories. They would pick an Ebony cover in the 60s, and because of what was going on in the culture then, they would see what those covers looked like. They would see Diana Ross. They would see Muhammad Ali. They would see, I did the movie with Diana Ross, Billy D. Williams, right? And so Mahogany, yeah. So they were able to see that, they were able to see where did it shift. Then they were able to see Salt and Pepper and Will Smith from doing Fresh Prince, and parents don't understand, like all those. They were able to see it go from super socially conscious, Black Power to, oh, let's have fun now in the 80s. And in the 90s, they were able to see the covers like, hey, what happened in the 90s? We got this whole East Coast, West Coast thing, so we were really able to travel, and I would have them tell me, so how does this compare to what entertainment looks like now, entertainment journalism now, right? So you can't, no one really goes to the store and say, hey, I'm gonna go buy a Vibe magazine, or I'm gonna go buy a Source. They're on, whatever pages they're watching, right? And so what they do is they look to see how it was done, how how it is done now, and I show them how to do what's called a crack test, how to tell if something is authentic, is it credible, does it have resources, is it outdated. I show them how to do the whole process. And then they take stories on their own and create their own stories. In their mind, they immediately go through all of these things before they create their own. So you're not just creating out of a wild, random idea. You're creating from the foundation of what was already laid. And how can I make this better? And believe it or not, a lot of the students, they know what was going on in the 90s music and the 80s. And so I was surprised, happily surprised. You know, some of them didn't, but a good bit of them were able to have a conversation about Intuit. I'm like, how do you know them? And so when a lot of them, when they saw that, they was like, oh yeah, that's like from the Biggie song. Or when they saw the source, they was like, oh yeah, that's what Biggie said. Smile every time my face is up in the sky. I was like, oh, that was that. So they're starting to put all of that together, right? So that's how I kind of showed them to work through that.
And so being as you are in educational, higher learning education institution, there's no way we can get away from talking about, the advanced technology.
The first thing you have to understand is AI is not your enemy. Because even when the internet came out, so many people was against, what is this digital thing? That can, they thought it was a fad, they thought, it was too just woo-woo, but no, imagine having to send snail mail even now, right? It was something new, we had to embrace it. People wasn't used to sending emails, they was used to picking up the phone and calling people, they was used to doing things the old way. So the internet wasn't going anywhere, still hasn't gone anywhere. Once you understand and learn how to use it to your advantage, it actually makes your life easier, right? You can be more productive. That's kind of how I see AI. Figure out how to use it correctly in a smart way. Let it be your assistant, not the whole work. And because the more you try to suppress it, you're going to do yourself justice. So the writers, I think, in my opinion, that are going to be great are the writers that use AI to assist them and perfect that, as opposed to, because it's going to allow them to outwork the ones that are not using it. Because that's just, we can't stop the evolution of what's happening right now. So instead of cranking out, 5 stories in a week, the person that's using AI to kind of do like trivial little things, they might pump out 15 stories, right? They're still doing the same work, it's just going to help you work faster. But you still have to put that human touch in it. So, you could 1000% tell when a story is 100% AI, you put zero thought into it, zero emotion, soul, thought process in it. That's not going to fly. With your readers, there's zero authenticity, and it's not going to work. But when you're using it as your assistant, sometimes it'll bring up points that you probably didn't even think about, really, or you may have thought of it this way, and they kind of showed you something like, let me go dig deeper on that, not just take it as face value, but let me go dig deeper with that. So you may use parts of that, and you may not. So I say embrace it, learn it so that you can perfect it, right? Because those that perfect it, they're going to be the winners in this. When it comes to writing, when it comes to filmmaking, and a lot of things that are just air. Like they're making commercials with AI. They're making AI influencers now, because influencers was making and still making billions of dollars.
Right.
Now they don't technically need a human at all.
Yeah.
But it's up to us as the real humans to either not support it, not give it the clicks that it needs to live, but that content doesn't need clicks and engagement in order to live. So I say embrace it. I say learn it though. There's so many types of AI out there. Learn what allow it to help you in at home, with your work, with your career, with your research. Because this is going to help, it's going to save so much time with the trivial things. If you spend a day on research, on ChatGPT, if you use ChatGPT, you can spit out everything in, a couple seconds.
Right.
So build from that. You save a day. You're still doing the work,
Right.
but you save in a day. And you crank out content faster. So I would say embrace it. I actually have a student in my class, he said, I don't want to use AI for nothing. I was like, okay. You don't have to. you know, and
Right.
surprisingly,
Yeah.
you know, he's, most students, a lot of students do use it, but he's hardcore, I am not, I refuse. I'm like, I absolutely respect that,
Right.
right? And, I told him the pros and cons of it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, do it all, do your whole, whatever it is, project that you're working on, because he wants to be like a film critic, right?